I've lived in Spain for a while now. In fact, I've been here more than 20 years. And most days people smile, they say hello, they engage in conversation, and it feels like it should, like home. But every now and then, and I do mean extremely every now and then, extremely rarely, I do catch that one look or that one attitude that says, oh, another Brit. So the question is, do the Spanish actually like us? Today I want to talk about that honestly and openly. No defensiveness, no stereotyping, just how it feels to live here as a Brit and how I feel the locals see us. Now, the reason I've decided to put this vlog together is because it isn't about sunshine and sangria. It's about belonging, and that comes down to three things: language, culture, and the housing market. Every friendship starts with communication. But in Spain, there are many British residents that never cross that bridge and even try to learn the language, even after years or decades living here. If you were to walk through certain parts of the Costa del Sol, you'll hear English everywhere, but barely a word of Spanish. It's almost like Britain in the sun. And I get it. Moving here, particularly later in life, if you're in your 50s, 60s, or even your 70s, Spanish can feel an impossible language to learn. But effort matters. It tells people that you want to belong. It tells people that you want to integrate. I can remember when I first moved to Spain in 2005 to the northwest of the country. A neighbour once told me that we don't expect perfect Spanish, but we just want to know that you see this as home. And this has stayed with me throughout the years. What do you think? Do you think that foreigners moving to Spain should learn the local language? Do you think that the local language should be part of the residency process? Let me know in the comments. Now let's talk about the two sides to Spain that, in my opinion, clearly exist. You've got the Spain which is full of tapas, fiestas, socialising and siestas. Then you've got British Spain, pubs, roast dinners, pints of lager and Premier League football screens. And the truth is that these two worlds, they never meet, they never collide. Now, before anyone gets defensive, this kind of cultural clustering isn't unique to Spain. In the UK, for example, we see the very same thing. If you were to walk around the Elephant and Castle, an area in London, it's full of Spanish and Latin life. There's tapas bars, salsa clubs, Colombian bakeries. Walk through there and yes, of course it's still London, but at the same time, it feels like Bogota or Madrid. And honestly, I think that's what makes cities interesting, because at the end of the day, if you live out of your home country, we all crave a little piece of home. We all crave a little piece of familiarity. But the difference is whether we stop there or keep reaching out for more. So what do Spaniards think of these British enclaves? Now, I've spoken to Spaniards over the years about this, and it's not always resentment. Sometimes it's actually recognition, and that's especially if I've spoken to Spaniards that have spent time living away from their home country. Now, the real issue is scale. When coastal towns, for example, here on the Costa del Sol, feel more British than Spanish, locals could start feeling like guests in their own country. And that's where the tension creeps in. Integration doesn't mean losing who you are. It just means showing up, joining the fiestas, learning the rhythm of the local life, learning the language, and giving something back. Okay, so let's talk about what's really fueling the tension, because this has been all over the press for months now, and that is the housing market. Property prices in Spain jumped by 14.8% last year. That's the biggest annual jump on record that this country has ever seen. Foreign buyers now make up nearly 1 in 5 home purchases, and according to Idealista, the Brits remain one of the largest groups. So are us Brits to blame? Well, in some areas, yes. Of course, we're adding to the demand. But I feel that the real issue runs much deeper. Limited supply, Airbnb conversions, and huge investment funds buying up housing all over the country. But I still get it from a local perspective, as I've said in previous vlogs. Yes, I'm a foreigner in this country, but I also feel like a local after spending 2 decades here. And when I speak to my Spanish friends, I completely get their perspective. When locals can't afford to buy a property where they grew up, it's easy to blame the faces they see around them. And quite often, that's us, the Brits. The Spanish government even floated an idea of 100% tax on homes bought by non-EU residents, including the Brits. This shows how emotional this issue has become. Okay, so here's the part that often gets missed or completely overlooked in the headlines, and that is that Brits don't just live in Spain, we spend in Spain also. In actual fact, according to press reports, British tourists brought in over 17 billion euros in 2024. That was more than any other nationality. If we add that to the fact that there's around 300,000 British residents that are permanently living in Spain, these are British residents that are paying local taxes, they're employing local tradesmen, they're buying food, furniture, cars. And it's clear that we're not we're helping to fuel local economies. Now, if you walk through any small Andalusian town or any small coastal town, you'll find a lot of British owned homes. But if you look inside those windows, you will see that Brits are employing local builders, they're employing local gardeners, local pool cleaning companies. And many of the shops are staying open because of British customers. In actual fact, where I was living before, just outside of Marbella, I remember speaking to one Spanish cafe owner, and he told me that if the Brits weren't there, he would lose his business. And he also said that probably half of the businesses in that street would close. So yes, while we might be changing the landscape, we also sustain it. And this is the nuance missing from the whole debate. The problem isn't that Brits live here, it's how we live here. Integration doesn't cancel out economic benefit, it makes it stronger. So maybe the real question isn't whether the Spaniards like the British, but whether they can imagine Spain without the British. So do the Spanish like the Brits living here? Well, in my 2 decades here, I've always been given an extremely warm welcome. But of course, there are going to be some Spanish that don't want us here. But I think the real question is, are we giving them a reason to not want us here? If we speak the language, respect the culture, and integrate and live with Spain and not just in it, then the answer is clearly going to be yes. But remember, Spain doesn't owe us warmth. It rewards effort. And when you give that effort, you'll find that the warmth was there all along. If you're British and living in Spain, how have you been received? And if you're Spanish, how do you actually feel about the British presence where you live? Drop me a comment below because I'd love to hear both sides. As always, I'm going to ask you, if you've enjoyed this vlog, to please give it a like, hit that hype button, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free to do, it doesn't cost a penny, but it helps a small channel such as this to continue to grow. Anyway, I'm really interested to see the comments for this particular vlog and get both sides of the story. However, I do ask that we keep conversations respectful and honest. Anyway, enjoy whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, and I'll get back to you in the next one.